Today's guest on Legend of the Game is a behind-the-scenes powerhouse you likely felt the influence of even if you didn't know his name. Yale Lenny Hansen, a.k.a. Lenny the Barber, is the founder and CEO of Momentum Entertainment Group, a visionary producer, and a cultural connector with 20-plus years in music, media, and live events. He's the guy artists, brands, and major networks call when they want their event to truly resonate. From VH1, Universal Music Group to iHeart and American Dream, Lenny has produced top reality shows, unforgettable concerts, and experiences that live on intersection of culture, community, and commerce. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on this journey, his grind, and the vision pushing the culture forward. Welcome to the show, Lenny. First of all, my brother, I wanted to say thank you. You were one of the first people to believe in me and give me the opportunity to shoot New York nightlife. You also I remember when Nayamo from Three Stooges asked if it was okay to give you my number, and you introduced me to Tiffany Chiles from Don Diva, and those were my first major tear sheets. You know, through that, I was able to shoot so many from Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Ghostface Killer, and numerous artists. So I just wanted to say thank you for believing in me and giving me the opportunity and for the introduction. Welcome to the show, my brother.
What did I see in Felix? I saw your hustle. I feel like I saw you working. I believe, if I could be wrong, but I believe it was at one of the Three Stooges mansion parties, maybe. And I just saw your hustle, and you were very well spoken. And then we actually got to kick it, and I was like, "It's my guy. I want to continue working with him." Your work was always A1, impeccable. You were on time, which is a very, very big deal to me. I don't really like I don't appreciate people that, business that's late. Like for in my business, especially in producing concerts, time is key. If you're a minute over, 10 minutes over, it can cost thousands of dollars. So in my world, it's just like taboo to be not on time. So I do my best to try to do everything. I try to do my best to deliver on time, but then I also expect the same in return. And I can't remember a time where you were like, yo, I need a couple more days, or I need a couple weeks, or I need whatever. It was like, you came, shot, you have your pictures and stuff on this day, and then that day my books came. I was one of the first salons and first promoters to collect photos the way I did back then. So it was you. I was using you and a guy named Jay, I believe, that took most of those photos. I want to say I have almost 5,000 photos from back in the day that I received from you and Jay, and maybe a couple other photographers, but mainly you. Your photos were probably 75% of the photos that I had that people would come up to the shop after a party. So backstory to this is that I used to own a salon up in Harlem, and we would after my parties, Felix would come take the pictures for the parties, and then after the parties he'd bring me the books, and then we just put the books up at the shop, and it was like a thing for people to come up to the shop to just see their photos in the books. Some of them they stole, of course, but it is what it is. But it was a part of that era. Was like those pictures were a part of the event culture, because prior to that, it was like photographers were only taking pictures on backdrops. They weren't like you didn't have a place. Polaroids. Mm-hmm. You didn't really have a place. You didn't really have a place to go look at your photos as well as other people's photos, and kind of if you weren't there, you were like, this shit was crazy. I'm going to the next one. Or if you were there, you're like, I didn't know that person was there. Or I look good in this picture. Or I don't like this picture. Or whatever the reaction was to the photos, it was just it was a part of the culture of me doing these events, and it was just something that people always look forward to. And one day when I stop procrastinating, I'll put up all the pictures that I have. Like I said, I have about 5,000 of them saved. I got to edit a couple of them, but yeah, man. I mean, you've been around for a long time. I mean, I didn't. was a point where, and still to this day, I mean, we're 20 plus years later, there aren't many events that I do that I don't call and at least see if you're available. Um, you've been my my you know photo capture guy person for a very long time, and to see your progress, you've always come to asked me to come to your studios, or whatever you ever needed me to do. I would always be there to support you because I appreciated your ambition, your kindness, your professionalism, and I think that's pretty much what I saw in you. And then everyone that I've ever turned you on to, or all my people that knew you, it became a thing where I'm sure you've had this, like, people tap you in a party and be like, yo, take this flick, you know what I'm saying? So you became synonymous for being a part of all the LTB events because
Of course.
people knew you were going to be there, and then you take their photo, but it was just like, and then they would know where to go see the photo. It wasn't a question of like, you didn't have to give them a card. Like, oh no, go on my website here. They knew within the next week, all they gotta do is come to the barbershop and they're gonna see the photos. So, yeah. So that's my answer as far as like what I saw in you back then. And yes, I did not. I will openly admit that I didn't understand what I was doing when I was doing it. I didn't understand how you don't. I guess I understood it more afterwards rather than when I was in the box. When I was in the box, I just cared about getting the bread, making people come to the party, making sure everybody had a good time. What outfit I was gonna wear that day.
He was always fresh, my brother.
Which one of my clients could come through and bless the party. So yeah, I didn't really know, and I didn't, social media wasn't out back then. I was a guy that literally put the flyers in a book bag and went out and handed out flyers at parties. And the way that what I believe separated me from most promoters was my marketing tactic, which I didn't know what marketing was back then. But what I would do is I would go to all the different shops, beauty salons and barbershops, all throughout Jersey, New York, Harlem, Queens, Brooklyn. And I would give each barber and beautician a ticket. And, ask them, can I leave my flyers in the shop? They say yes. Like, oh, cool. Here's a ticket to the party. So what that did was those barbers and beauticians would come to the parties, have a ball, and then go back to their clients and tell them they had a fun at my party. So it became, I believe that was the key to spreading the word faster than a flyer distributor being outside of a party just handing out a flyer. Word of mouth became, the key to that success. I can remember, God bless the dead, I remember Alpo years ago, who was a Harlem legend, called me one day when he was locked up and was like, and he called me at the barbershop and he's like, you know what this is? And I'm like, sounds familiar, but I can't really recall who it is. And he was like, he's like, it's Alpo, man. And I'm like, oh shit, like Alpo? He's like, yeah. So we started kicking it, and he, at the end of this, when we started kicking it, he just wanted to let me know that even though he wasn't around, that he saw me. And that meant a lot because, I don't glorify drug dealing at all, but if there was once a person you could, he was like one of the biggest, right? So, and he was just loved by so many people. I mean, hated by some, but loved by also. And to me, every time I saw him prior to that, I didn't know him, and he was always polite to me. Like, even if I said what's up to him or whatever, he was always polite to me. I met him years ago at Jerry's Den barbershop, and didn't know he was Alpo. And I had ended up seeing him in Virginia one year for the Freaknik, and I saw him with all these chains on him and all these people were hanging around him, and I'm like, who? So my boys were like, yo, look at Alpo. And I'm like, where's Alpo? And they were like, that guy right there. I was like, nah, that's the dude from the barbershop. And so I walked up to him, And he was like, yo, what up, my brother? So it was just like, even though in his element of being outside the barbershop where he was just Richard Martinez, I think is his last name. I mean, his name is. Just being who he was at the barbershop was just a regular dude come get a haircut, and seeing him in his element where he was just like, bigger than anybody around. Like he was just huge, right? Huge. So knowing that his humility was still there and he was just like, felt like he should, approach me and say what's up to me, felt good back then. And then fast forward probably 20 years later, and this dude calls me, tell me that, yo, my cousins, my sisters, my brothers, my this, my that, all they do is talk about your parties, man. So that was very, very impactful for me. And it made me, like, I probably shed a tear because I was like, I can't believe these niggas called me up in the barbershop to tell me that, he sees me. And then when he got out, we connected and, gave each other love. But, a lot of, I definitely did not understand what I was doing back then and what the impact was on the party game. All I knew was people were coming out to the party and having a good time. I didn't know that I was doing marketing. I had no idea that that's what I was doing. So yeah, I mean,
You made my life easy though too, because every time, like the hustlers or the beautiful chicks that like they were scared for me to take a picture. I'm like, it's for Lenny. Okay, no problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like
right.
they're like, oh, it's for Lenny. I want to be in the book.
Right,
Like
right,
they want
right.
to be in the book.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So for those that don't know who Lenny Hansen is and how it all started from a barber to where you are today.
So the question is how did I go from being a barber to oh, okay. The short answer is I was very good at cutting hair. So, but my story to leading up to me being very good and one of the best, I will definitely call myself one of the best barbers back then. I still think, and I still know, I feel like I have it today, and I see haircuts out there every day, and I still go to barbershops every now and again, so I can compete with pretty much any barber. I don't do those fancy designs and stuff, but like any kind of haircut, whether that be black, white, Chinese, whatever, I can compete with the best of them, right? So to this day, but leading up to me becoming very good, I was the barber that the other barbers teased. And so, when someone walked in, first of all, it was God that it became a barber. I was working at 9X Telephone Company, which is now AT&T. My mother was one of the executives up there. And so was this gentleman, his name is Sam Gore. His wife was also an executive up there. And I want to say I went to the barbershop one day, and I got my hair cut, and my barber leaned down and he was like, yo, man, I made $300 in the last day. And I was like, what you mean you made $300 in the last day? He was like, yo, it just keeps coming. I think I'm gonna make $5 today. Like, I'm like, what? So next thing you know, I left the barbershop and I went to the beauty supply and bought me some clippers. And I started beating up my little brothers' heads. And I started cutting my brothers, my friends, my cousins, whoever wanted a haircut for free, come get a haircut from me. But I taught myself how to cut my own hair. So I did my own fade and flat top. So that's how I learned how to fade. But still wasn't good. I was okay for free. I wasn't okay to get paid. So fast forward to me working at AT&T. I remember back then I was making, I want to say, I was 20, probably 21, 22, 23, 23. I was making $25, $30 an hour, which is unheard of back then. I was like, ridiculous money back then. Mm-hmm. I remember one day my boss came to us and was like, hey, we're cutting your pay. We're cutting your pay to $16 an hour, which was still higher than most people made. Mm-hmm. I just didn't like the idea that this man could just come and cut my pay just like that. I was like, what do you mean you're cutting our pay? Like, what are you talking? Like, we built lifestyles off of this money. You gonna just cut my pay like that? So I didn't like that. And I remember going home and talking to Gail, my wife at the time. I was like, man, I want to cut hair, man. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to get out of here. So I spoke to my mother about it, and she was like, well, And I didn't know this. I didn't know Valerie's husband was Sam Gore. She was like, "Well, you interested in working at Sam Gore's?" I'm like, "Sam Gore's, Mom? What do you know about Sam Gore's? Like, that's the biggest shop in Harlem. Like, what are you talking about?" And she was like, "Well, Val is his wife." And I'm like, "Val Gore?" I said, "I never put two and two together." She was like, "Yeah, I'll talk to her for you." So she talked to Val, and she told Val told her to have me come see her. Went to Val's desk, and she was like, "So you want to cut hair?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm tired of this job, whatever." She's like, "All right, well, go talk to my husband. Go talk to Sam. When can you go see him? Go talk to him, and then you'll have the job." I'm like, "What do you mean I have the job? Like, I didn't even have an interview with him yet." She's like, "You want the job or what?" And that's when I realized the power of the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She didn't have to ask her husband anything. She said, "Go talk to him. Tell him when you want to start, and you're gonna go start. That's it. Ain't nothing to talk about." Sure enough, went to Sam. The magic number that I needed to make a week was $335 a week in order for us to pay our bills. And that's what Gail told me I had to make. And so went to Sam, told him I needed to make $335 a week. He said, "All right, cool. I'll tell you what, first $335 a week you make, you keep. The rest, we split 60-40 or whatever it is, and then when you get to a certain amount, you'll start paying booth rent." God, right? Because how did all those things just kind of intertwine? My mom know her. She's Sam's wife, and then Sam says yes before he says yes. It's just like, next thing you know, I'm working at Sam Gore's. I ended up getting my license. It's all God. I ended up getting my license because my mother's the gentleman that lived across the street from my mother was this brother by the name of Mr. Moore, and Mr. Moore owned a barbershop in the Bronx. And he's the one who got my license. So by the time I got to Sam Gore's, I already had my license and didn't really still know how to cut hair because Mr. Moore just kind of like taught me the ropes a little bit and was like, "All right, kid, I'm gonna sign up for your license," and he gave me my license. So all God, because how is it that all these things are gonna intertwine? So fast forward to me started working at the barbershop. I remember just cutting anybody who came in, all the walk-ins that would come in. I was like, "All right, let's go." You slap the chair and put them in the chair. I was fucking them up, right? So I realized that, I wasn't as good as I thought I was. This brother by the name, I forgot his name, but I'm gonna call him my guardian angel because of this. Back then, we used to have like this blowout afro thing that we used to do back in the day, called chemical blowout. And this dude came in the shop one day and he asked for a chemical blowout. I did it, fucked him up. He saw everybody laughing at me. He was like, "Yo, you know what?" He said, "I see everybody laughing at you in here." He said, "Check this out, bro. I don't really care about my haircut. I come in here because I want to get away from my girl, man. I just want a place to hang out and whatever. He said, "I don't really care. I'm going to be back here every week until you get it right." So I did his afro, and I would only accept hairlines and Caesars as clients. Other than that, I wasn't doing no fades. I'm doing that. My shop was 12 barbers. So I would cut his afro every week. And like I said, I did the lines and the Caesars. But what I also did while in my spare time was I sat there and I studied every single barber's style. Studied his line, studied his afro, studied his fade, studied how he washed hair, studied his speed, studied what else I studied? I studied everything. I studied every single. So I took James's fade. I took T's afro. I took Rich's speed. I took, Gerald's. This gentleman, brother, God bless his dead, but Gerald was he was probably the top earning barber. He was actually the top earning barber in the shop, but it wasn't because he was the best barber in the shop. His personality was infectious, and he had all the Dominicans up from Washington Heights coming to him. He had some black customers too. He also had like OG Juan, for example, back in the day. That's who his barber was. That's how I met Juan. So I took his personality. I was like, yo, you got to be fun with your clients. You got to talk to them. You got to ask what's going on. You can't just sit there and cut their hair. You got to know you're their psychologist now, right? So I took all those, all those different styles and knowledge from each one of these barbers, and I kind of created my own style. And when I was ready to come out and start cutting hair, doing all types of different haircuts, I started snatching customers from other barbers. Snatching them. They was coming to me. Once I touched them, it was over. They did not go back to their barber. Of course, I became one of the hated barbers in the barbershop. Had a couple fights because with other barbers because of that, because I was taking their customers. But from there, I was cutting hair. I was popular in the barber world. I also started. I was one of the first barbers to start going to cut music industry executives and rappers and all that stuff. So, hence the name of my first salon was called The Cutting Room. And the reason why I ended up with that name is because my slogan as a barber was any room is a cutting room, because I would go to any I would go to any room, studio, or office, or whatever, and it turned into a cutting room. So that's why I came up with the name Cutting Room. And my clients were like Chris Lighty and Steve Stout, Q-Tip, AZ, Nas, LES, who else? Like a Freddie Jackson, De La Soul, Merce from De La Soul. So my clientele was getting nuttier and on top of them, it was like then the local hustlers that were from the neighborhood, and then Gerald would throw me all the the workers of the boss Dominican drug dealers that he was cutting. He would throw me all the workers. So my price went from being a $20 haircut to being between a $40 to $50 haircut because of the demand. So from there, I just ended up throwing parties. I remember actually, no, I take that back. I ended up throwing a party for my birthday. Myself, it was three of us that threw our birthday parties in May. I got a birthday May 30th is my birthday. So we ended up throwing a Gemini event at this place called the Brownstone. Kind of looked like, if you remember the one where Chance video when Biggie was in the Brownstone. To this day, I feel like they took that from my parties because it looked exactly the same. But we threw that one party. And I remember Gail and myself sitting back like, yo, we made a lot of money. Like, the fuck? Well, we made money from the bar, maybe from the door. Called our partners back. Was like, yo, we should do it again. And all of them were like, nah, we don't do parties. We just did that for our birthday. We don't do no parties. Me and Gail was like, okay. We did it again. So now all the money that came in, there was no split. It was just my money. I want to say we probably made $20,000 that night or something like that. That was the bug that made me continue to throw parties. It was that one part, that Brownstone party. From there, I ended up, the Brownstone owners, it was like, you can't come back here, bro. You have outgrown your space. You got to go find yourself a club. And so that's how I started throwing parties, not knowing that that's what I was going to end up doing for the next 30 years. First party after that was at a club on 14th Street. And then the second party after that, I want to say it was like a Metronome or something like that. But that
was actually one of my favorite parties.
Yeah, that was a dope party. So that's how I ended up being in that space without knowing that I was going to be in that space. And because of my clientele being a Nas, a Steve Stout, a Chris Lighty, whatever, I was able to connect certain dots with people that, so if a promoter wanted Busta Rhymes, for example, to host a party, well, Chris Lighty was my customer, so I would just call Chris. And so it was things, so my Rolodex became kind of nutty because I had these industry connects, I had these hustler connects, I had, so I just started booking artists for other promoters, not on purpose, just because I didn't even do it for money at first. I was just doing it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I got to stop doing this shit for free. Like, I got to start charging. So then I started charging 10%, you know what I'm saying, for booking artists, for other producers. And I think that's probably around when I realized that my Rolodex was kind of nutty. Like my phone book was kind of vast, and I could pretty much call any DJ, the Funkmaster Flex, the Angie Martinez, anybody I could, it was at the my fingertips, because I just knew them from throwing events and them coming to my parties, or Angie Martinez used to host some of my parties. Like, so I did not know, again, I did not know what I was doing back then, until later on, and realized that I was doing marketing, and hence I ended up getting a job at Universal Music as a director of marketing, and that became the reason why I got that job, is because this gentleman named Eric, he was one of my clients, but he saw that I was doing more. He was like, "Yo, you're like, why don't you come work for Universal? I got a job for you if you got, if you want to come work for us." And I'm like, "How am I going to work at Universal Music? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Bro, you did a hell of a job of marketing yourself. You can market some artists." You know what I'm saying? So went up there for the interview, got the job, and the rest was history. Ended up producing a couple of events while I was working there, and I worked with artists like Lil Wayne and Erykah Badu and Baby and Tank, and yeah, it's pretty cool career on the industry side. Yeah, so I did not know that I was going to be doing what I was doing, but everything today that I'm doing on this day, interviewing with you, it all started with me cutting hair. There's no other way nothing else that I can attribute it to other than me starting to cut hair.
That's amazing, my brother. Take us back to those early New York nightlife days, where the energy was like in the city, and what role did you play in shaping the scene and the culture compared to how clubs are today?
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, what I would say is different about back then is we partied, man. Like, we danced. It wasn't. I'm not gonna never say we never had anybody being disrespectful, but it was very few and far in between. I didn't play that, and neither did any of my friends or family or anybody that came that I want to use the words protected me and cared about me would stand for. So if anybody did anything foul, they would stop it. Sometimes someone could potentially get knocked out for doing some dumb shit at one of our parties, but it was just the way of the world, because like it was a business at the end of the day, and we demanded our respect for with that, as far as people being disrespectful. But what I would say is that, back then we partied, man, and it was just people couldn't wait to get dressed. Women couldn't wait to go get their hair done and to come sweat it out. Dudes couldn't wait to go put on their fly outfits and be sweaty by the end of the night because they were dancing all night. I had literally, your industry executives to your rappers, your busters. I remember one party I did. I used to do parties with this company. My partners, former partners, Dan Tan and Stacy. We had a crew called LSD, and with them and on my own, man. I mean, we've had all types of stars come through our events. Leonardo DiCaprio, Q-Tip. One night, Q-Tip brought Leonardo DiCaprio. Steve Stout brought Kobe Bryant, and like it was just nuts. You know what I mean? Like it was, and it all was organic. I used to cut Steve Stout. Hey, Steve, having a party tonight? He'd come through. He manages Kobe. He brings Kobe. Chris Lighty, I'm having a party tonight. Chris is coming to the party. He bring Buster. I cut Q-Tip. Q-Tip, I'm having a party tonight. Q-Tip brought Leonardo DiCaprio. So it was just like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? Like at some point my parties became synonymous for being star-studded without me announcing that there were going to be stars there. And like I said, the difference between back then and now is that, yeah, we did sell bottles. We sold lots of bottles. I mean, we definitely sold bottles, but like it wasn't just about you being in a VIP booth with your 10 dudes, and it wasn't like that. Everybody mingled. Like the females walked around, dudes walked around. There are a lot of couples that have been that were incepted from my events. A lot of babies that have been conceived because of my events. So that's what it was. It was a melting pot for people from all different walks of life to come to one space, a safe space, feel like you're gonna get danced. You potentially may meet your husband or your next boyfriend, or or even your next business partner, right? There's people that came to my events that ended up doing business together. So, that is the difference between back then and now. I don't really like going to parties now because for the most part, unless I go to an older party, but like these younger parties, like these kids go in there and they just want to pop bottles and sit there with their 12 dudes and like no female in sight, like, or if a female's walking by, it's like 10 dudes trying to grab the one female. Like, it wasn't like that for us. We literally came there to party and we dressed. Like, it wasn't, I did have my parties that you didn't have to dress in, but like for most of my parties, you had to dress, man. Like, you did. But even like Club Cheetah on Wednesday night, which was absolutely bonkers for a year, people just came and had fun and had a good time. Unfortunately, somebody got popped in there, but shit happens. Yeah, I became synonymous for just throwing parties that were star-studded. Nelly came to one of my parties one night. He came for a birthday for my boy Ty Dash. Nelly came to the event and literally did his whole album on the mic in the back in the DJ booth. I mean, in the back at his VIP table. Spit the whole album. It was nuts. I think Top Boogie has that on cassette, I believe, on CD. I mean, but yeah, it was. I remember I did a party for my birthday and Brucey B was DJing, and next thing you know, he's like, the Knicks had won that night, and who walks through the door? Latrell Sprewell. Niggas like, what the fuck? I remember looking like, what the fuck is he doing here? Right? That night, I want to say Latrell Sprewell came through, and Marcus Camby. I didn't know who Marcus Camby was. I remember my partner's mother, God bless her, she was the door person. And she's like, what you want me to do with Marcus Camby? And I'm like, I don't know, charge him $50. I don't know who the hell he is. She's like, that's Marcus Camby. I'm like, who's Marcus Camby? She's like, and she told me, I was like, oh shit. So yeah, we let him in. But yeah, that one night, man. And then Marcus Camby ended up being one of the clients at the shop that I was cutting at. He was Earl, my boy Earl used to cut him. So it was just like between the barbershop and cutting hair. I mean, between the barbershop and parties, man. Life was good. Life was really, really good, and ended up making a lot of money, building a lot of relationships. The climate has definitely changed today. I don't do as many parties as I did back then. I'm more in the concert world and event producing world, but yeah, it was a good time, man. It was an awesome time, and I definitely value what I've learned from back then, which is, good hospitality goes a long, long way. People remember you from being just humble and making sure that they're good. Like, that shit will go a long way. And since then, I've been able to work with a lot of different artists and produced a lot of good concerts and part of production for concerts. So I not only produce my own shows, but I'm also work for hire. So I've worked on, tons of shows. Summer Jam, one of them. I was one of the producers on Summer Jam for probably 15 years or so. I did the festival stage. So Carl Freed, who produced Summer Jam. He's the one who actually taught me the ropes in the concert world. He took me under his wing back in the day, and I just kind of worked for him. And I think I met him when I did Lil Wayne at the Beacon Theater, which was my first concert. It was the Lil Wayne show at the Beacon Theater the night that he got locked up, unfortunately. But yeah, that was 100% my show.
Well, dope.
Nuts.
You mentioned all these celebrities. Has anyone came to one of your events that just totally shocked you? Like, you like, I can't believe this person is here?
Beyonce.
Yeah.
Beyonce. Well, a couple. Beyonce, Denzel Washington, Jay-Z.
I know you said Cole. That probably was crazy too.
Yeah, that was nuts. Kobe was nuts. But yeah, I think the one star, because I had seen Jay before. I'd never seen Denzel, so that was incredible. But you can't deny Beyonce's beauty. So, seeing her was just like, what in the world is she doing in this party? So that was kind of dope. I have a picture of her actually at one of my parties. Who else? I got a picture of Drake when he was a kid, when he was just came up, when he was coming up. Young Drake, but he wasn't popping back then. I think Beyonce, man. Oh, Mike Tyson was one of those guys that he would come to the parties every now and again. But I think the first time he came to one of my events, I was kind of starstruck. But he also was a very good friend of my boy Wonderful and his crew. They all from Brooklyn, so he came through because of them. Yeah, and Wonderful is actually, shout out to Wonderful. Wonderful is the person who made me do Cheetah, because I wasn't going to do Cheetah. Was one of my biggest parties and the most of my money I made weekly in my life. But he's the one, I wasn't going to do it. He's the one that told me, you better do Cheetah, man. Do Cheetah. You're gonna make some good money. And I did it, and the rest ended up being history. I was making an insane amount of money weekly at Cheetah. But yeah, I would say Beyonce is probably the top one. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Mike Tyson because I wasn't going to bring that up, but since you mentioned Mike Tyson, it's funny. One of my favorite parties I ever shot for you was at the Roxy, and I think it was like a gambling theme or something like that. Like we had the casino theme.
Viva Las Vegas.
Yes, and Mike Tyson came in, and I remember I was like, "Hey, champ, big fan of you. Can I take a picture?" He said, "I'm not taking pictures tonight." I said, "Okay, no problem." And then a few minutes later, you came up to me, he's like, "Yo, you take a picture of Champ?" I said, he said he ain't taking no pictures tonight. And then he said, "Hold on." Go over there, he said, "Yo, Champ, take a picture." So I take the picture, whatever, and then all of a sudden, Jackie takes a picture with him, and then you know how that goes. Everybody wants the picture with Mike now. Right. So I start taking the pictures, and all of a sudden, I walk away, and then I just feel someone grab my arm, and he's like, "Didn't I tell you not to take no fucking pictures?" And he swung at me, and all I said, I saw my spirit leave my body. And I'm just trying to prepare for this, and the bodyguard grabs his arm. And God bless my brother Jojo, who just passed away, because he wanted to be here to tell his story. He's like, "Bro, you just walked to the other side of the end of the club, just gave me the camera, and just sat there for like 15 minutes. Like, did that almost just happen? Did that almost happen?" And it's like, and then everybody's like, "You should let him hit you. You would have been paid."
You'd have had a nice loss.
And I'd be like, "Yeah, can I take your picture, please? Can I?" I'd have been freaking disabled out of my ass. I'm like, you see what he do to people with gloves, magic bare fist.
Bare fist would have been nuts.
So I'm like, I always say, people was like, I know you have so many memorable, great experiences, but what was probably one of your worst ones? And I always share that one whenever I talk.
I'm sure that was a bad experience. I got a picture from that night.
Yes, you do. Yeah. And it's on my wall over there in the front.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. So it's crazy that you mentioned Mike, man. But a lot of folks don't realize the amount of logistics and finesse that go into throwing events that don't fall apart. Mm-hmm. What were some of the lessons you learned the hard way in those early years?
Being on time. I didn't know. So when you do parties, the party starts at 10 to 2. So, 1:30, last call, lights gone, 2:00, it's a wrap. When you're in the concert world, the building is going to let you go ahead and rock out because they can't wait for you to go over your curfew. I want to say I was working a concert. Who was I working for? I can't remember who it was, but I was working a concert as a talent wrangler or something, and DMX was the artist. He was super late. By the time he got on, the promoter had hemorrhaged $10,000 for like minutes. Like it was like 20 minutes or some shit like that, 20, 30 minutes or something like that. And I didn't understand it. I was like, why the fuck is it so much? Well, when you're thinking about an arena and all these people that work in the arena, from your stage hands to your ushers to your security to your managers, the guy who cleans the bathrooms, the person who cleans up the stands, the person who's at the bar, all those people got to get paid overtime. The money ain't going in their pockets. It's going to all this overtime that they're charging you for. So when I saw that, I was just like, I'm never going to be late on a concert ever. So, and then I ended up coming in. I call it the school of Gus Henningberg. Gus is one of my partners, but he's also my mentor, and Carl, and a gentleman by Bobby Duckett. We have 100% on time rate. I've been doing concerts. I'm probably up to like, I don't know, 10, 12 years of producing concerts. And I haven't had a concert go overtime since then. And it's by any means necessary. So if an artist is late before he gets on the stage, we're like, bro, you're supposed to do 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is, but you got 15. And if at 15 he's still rhyming, we cut the music. We just cut it because we can't afford. Because once it goes over, if a promoter goes overtime, they're going to be looking for someone to blame. So we don't ever want to be that guy that company they blame. So I learned a long time, and I want to be the guy that pays the extra surcharge for going overtime. So that's one of the major lessons that I can say that I learned that I didn't have to think about when just doing regular parties. Also, the most major thing that I can think of that I didn't know back then is cultivating relationships. So because I was humble and because I did my best to make sure everyone had a good time, I ended up forming relationships. Even working at certain concerts and certain event spaces, I would meet the manager, I would meet the owner sometimes, I'd meet the general man, I'd meet the higher ups. And because those relationships were made at that point in time, even though I was just working, but when I was ready to book the venue, I could just call them. So, perfect example, I worked the show at Madison Square Garden. I met Randy Figber, who's the general manager of Madison Square Garden. He's a head vice president, something like that. He's one of the top guys, not the top guy. And I met him working, but then when it was time for me to do a show, I was able to call him, and I did the show. And show went up on time, came down on time. I did the Bathing Ape Bape 20th year anniversary show or whatever. Not the easiest show to do. It was a bunch of artists. It was Big Sean, Kid Cudi, Wiz Khalifa. I forgot who else. It was a bunch of artists. But it was a lot of different moving parts to that event because it was an anniversary show. A lot of different activations, a lot of different things to do. And we went up and came down on time. And that isn't something that most venue owners and venue managers see in hip hop, that they don't go overtime. Most shows go overtime. And I remember Randy, at the end of the night, Randy was like, yo, you did it. Like, you really came down on time. I was like, I told you I would. But because for me, I didn't know any different. So when someone challenges me on it, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I'm not coming down late, fam, because I'm not paying no more. I'm not paying you no more money. Like, that's just it. So cultivating relationships. And then fast forward, I was working. And then after that show, I ended up working another show at Madison Square Garden. And Randy Figber was in one of the rooms. I want to say he was in the promoter's room. And he had all his executives with him. All the guys in suits, they were all in the room. When I walked in, and mind you, I'm just working. I'm talent wrangling, basically. Talent, And I remember walking into the room and seeing him, and he was like, Lenny! And he introduced me to all his executives as, yo, this is the dude, he did the Bape show, man. That was one of the best shows we ever did at Madison Square Garden. And I'm like, what? It was at the theater at Madison Square Garden. But he was like, that was one of the best shows. And I never knew he felt that way. But he said it to his people. And I'm like, holy shit, thank you for that compliment, Andy. I never knew you felt that way, right? But he's like, nah, bro, you're A1. Like, you guys were on time. You guys, sorry. He was like, we had no issues with you at the end of the night. We settled on time. We did everything on time. He's like, and it was just a dope show. He said, so yeah, in my opinion, that was one of the best shows we've had because it was just a different type of show and it ran on time. So yeah, again, I will say relationships. I told her years ago I was on tour with a rapper and he wasn't that personable. I'm not gonna mention his name. But one of the things I said to him was because sometimes he wouldn't go out there to do his meet and greets. Like he was like, I'm waiting, whatever, I'm not going, or I'll go late, or whatever. And he wouldn't go to the radio stations to do radio interviews when we were in each city. And I said, bro, man, something I want you to think about. I said, think about yourself like you are the biggest boulder, like a rock. And I said, you remember Samson? He was like, yeah. I said, imagine you're like a big giant like Samson, and you got this big ass slingshot, as big as you could find. I said, you're able to take that boulder and put it in a slingshot, and you sling that boulder into the air. I said, that boulder shoots up into the air, right? Kind of like, looks like it's going into outer space damn near if it's that big, right? He's like, yeah, we get with this. I said, so that boulder is eventually going to come back down to Earth. I said, and depending on, use yourself as that boulder, depending on the relationships that you cultivate on your way up as you're shooting up into the sky is going to dictate how your career is going to last when this whole fucking stardom shit is that kind of like quiets down, because you're going to need those relationships when you're ready to put out another single, when you're ready to go back on tour. You're going to need those relationships. So going out there to kiss a baby or take a picture with a program director's kid or whatever, that's just going to mean a lot, because when you're ready to come back and do your next album, or when you next do your next tour and you want to promote something, they're going to do it for you without even asking. And he just looked at me like, holy shit. And it hit home for him. Hence, when I book radio for any of my events or any of my shows, no one gets the rates that I do. I don't have to go to sales and get buy radio. I go talk to the program director or the higher ups, and I tell them what I want to do, and I make sure that what I'm doing is cool enough that they're gonna want to do it. And once I got them knowing that they want to do it, then they give me whatever. If you went to the radio and spent $5,000, I went in radio and spent $5,000, you're gonna get $5,000 worth of radio. Me, I'm gonna get $100,000 worth of radio. Just the way the world works, because these relationships, these guys love me, right? Joe DeAngelis, God bless him, he's the senior vice president of promotions for iHeart. Emailed him the other day. I'm doing a show coming up. We'll talk about that in a minute. I emailed him the other day and was like, yo, Joe, I'm doing this event, whatever, once you can Power get involved, whatever. And his reply to me was, what's going on, sir? And I looked at the email. I'm like, this guy is calling me sir. Like, there's nobody bigger than him up at iHeart. He's calling me sir. But that's because of the relationships that we cultivated together, because I always handle my business with him. I used to produce the Powerhouse pre-shows, and I was always on time, and I always did everything the right way. And so he was at the bottom of the totem pole back then, but now the guy's at the top, and he's calling me sir because he respects me and respects what I brought to the table and respects the idea that I am always on time. And he knows that when he puts the stamp of his company behind whatever I do, he ain't got to worry about it. You know what I'm saying? It's going to go up. It's going to be a great show, and it's going to go up on time. It's going to come down on time. There's not going to be any backlash from him, putting all his weight behind me. So again, relationships. Hence why you got me here today. Our relationship is what got us here. It ain't because you paid me or I paid you or whatever. It's because you called me and you like my brother, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you called me, you said to come do this interview. I ain't say, well, nah, I ain't got time. I was like, when you want me to do it? And you know what I'm saying? And now we here. That was based off of a 20 plus year relationship. Nothing else. There was nothing else. And it had to do, and the reason why that relationship lasted is because when Felix came to the table, Felix handled his business the way he was supposed to. Same way how when it came to paying Felix, Lenny handled his business the way he was supposed to. So we built our relationship, our brotherhood off of business, but our brotherhood is still there. So I tell everybody that, man, like, cultivate your relationships, man. Don't, when somebody asks you for an autograph, bruh, sign that autograph. Because there's going to become a time when somebody's not going to ask you for an autograph. You're going to be in the supermarket. Nobody's going to give a fuck.
Exactly.
You feel me? So sign those autographs. Because you want to be up on their wall. You want the person to remember. You want the person to feel like they remember you, and even if you don't remember them, when they come up to you and say, "Hey, you took a picture of me and such," and you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that," they really do believe you. You know what I mean? And they leave there, and the next time you put out an album, they buy that shit immediately because of that time, that 3 seconds that you gave them. And a lot of artists don't get that. They just shun people and don't care if anybody they don't care if they sign an autograph or take a picture with someone, or they don't care. I look at what's the name of the artist? It's an artist named Zeddy Will that's out right now. He's an awesome kid.
Yeah, I just shot him at an event like 2 weeks ago.
Awesome artist, bro. Mm-hmm. Zeddy takes pictures with everybody. He
was dancing. He grabbed the phone. He grabbed so many kids' phone and was doing the videos for them.
He's on his way up. Mm-hmm. And I believe in my heart that he's not going to come down no time soon, because the kid is cultivating his relationships. He got an awesome management team behind him. And, he's a personality, right? So, people like that is who J. Cole, humble soul. I don't care where you see J. Cole. Take a picture with J. Cole. You gonna ask him to take a picture with him? He's gonna take a picture with you. I remember J. Cole. Where was I at? I forgot where I was at. But I remember walking up. I had a booking for him, and the manager didn't take the booking, but Jay ended up at the party anyway for free. He ended up coming to the party to hang out, and I walked up to him. I was like, "Yo, bro. I don't know if you remember me, but, I met you at such and such, such." He's like, "Yeah, I remember you. It was good. I was like, I had 20 grand for you for this party, bro." And he was like, "What?" And he sat down. He was like, "Yo, sit down for real quick, man." And I sat down with him and told him what happened. And next thing you know, he was like, "Yo, nah, man, this is some bullshit. Here's the number you call moving forward, bro. This is who you call. When you want me, you call that number and you're going to get to me and we good." But he didn't have to do that. He could have just kind of shunned me off like anybody else. It's not like the guy needed the money, but it's like, you know what I mean? He was just like, he did not at all shun me off when I walked up to him and said, "What's up?" And like, a lot of artists just are not like that. They just don't.
Too full of themselves.
They're too full of themselves. And look, some artists are like so big that they have so much security around them that, you can't get to them. But there are those artists that, even though they have security around with them, they'll be like, "Oh, no, let me take this picture. Nelly, another person. Nelly's a guy that he'll take a picture with anybody. And Nelly got it. Ain't nobody bigger than, it's not many artists that will ever get to his level of success. Nelly's the most humble person that you will ever meet. He has the same crew around him that he had back in the day. Same management. And he's just a humble gentleman. Like, remember I saw him at what was it? Lovers and Friends in Vegas, and I saw his manager. I was Nelly's barber for about 15 years. So his manager, and he's like, "Yo, Mo's gonna want to see you." His name is Mo. Mm-hmm. Maurice. Mo's gonna want to see. I'm like, "I bet, I'll come by the dressing room, whatever." So I went by the dressing room. He wasn't there. A new security guard was there. His other security had passed away. Big B, God bless him. And security guard was like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, my name is Lenny. I'm here to see Mo." And I'm thinking, like, if I say the guy's real name, that he would, "Yeah, I don't know who the fuck you are, bro. You gotta get out of here, man. Like, treat me like I was a groupie." And I was like, I said, "Bro, I'm not a groupie, but I'm gonna just walk away. I don't really, whatever." So then I said, "Well, just tell them that Lenny came by." And by the time I saw Nelly later, he said, "Yo, I'm sorry, man. My bad. He ain't know who the fuck you was." Like, Nelly apologized for homie. Homie was like, "Yeah, I ain't know, man. I'm sorry, man." Obviously, Nelly must have chewed him a new asshole, because why else would he be so humble? I mean, so apologetic. But Nelly didn't have to be so humble and care that if, his security shunned me away. Like, but I know that he must have said something to him, like, "That's my man. Like, like at least you could have put them to the side or wait for me to come back or whatever. Like I was by myself, wasn't like I was harming anybody. But those are artists that, you know, have cultivated relationships, and whenever they need something, it just happens for them. Yeah. So I just believe that relationships are one of the most important features that any person in success that wants to be successful in the industry or in any industry that they should have. You should cultivate these relationships that you have, man. Don't ever think that you got too much money or you're too big to, you know, say hello or take a picture or just sit there and talk to somebody for 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like people run up on me all the time. I don't know who they are. And I call myself like a ghetto celebrity. I'm not like a celebrity, a worldwide celebrity, but I'm very popular and people know who I am, know what I look like. I was never the artist. I mean, I was never a promoter that wanted the world to know what I look like. You remember, I was always
You
playing.
never wanted to take pictures.
I never wanted to take pictures,
Even
right?
at Mike Tyson,
Yeah.
it was like, you take the picture, and
Yeah.
I'm not jumping in there.
Yeah. I wasn't into that. But there were people out there that still knew who I was, and I had to give them their time when they wanted to talk to me. I had to. So now when I see people on the street, like, yo, I remember your parties, man. Nobody can say, oh, you were an asshole at your party. Or you were this, or you were that. Like, only thing they gotta do is talk about all they could do is talk about the good times they've had at my parties, man. That's
Facts.
it. Ain't nothing else to talk about. So, you know, God willing, I'll start throwing parties in the near future. I'm onto other things now, but I do have a show coming up. But yeah,
I always preach the same message, brother, that relationships is the key. Like, that's what made me successful. Even in this day and age where I don't like to say photographers, a lot of dudes with cameras because of social media, and that people are like, how do you still sustain in this era? And it's the relationships, because people that have hired me over the years and years, and they feel comfortable with me because I treat them the way they want to be treated.
right.
So that's definitely important to do. Momentum Entertainment Group has built a reputation for creating experiences that feel like culture, not just content. How do you stay tapped into what the audience really want, even as the industry shifts?
Pay attention to the youngins. Ask questions. Talk to my kids. Pay attention to the world outside of hip hop and R&B. One of my favorite shows that we produced was a show with her, Imagine Dragon, Chris Stapleton. A couple of years ago, I became Imagine Dragon fan that day, but it really made me feel like, well, no, let me rewind. That was one of my favorite shows, but maybe about 6 years ago, I did a rock and roll show. Ever since then, I just started following, you know, all music trends, not just hip hop and R&B. I was in that lane for so long that that's all I really knew. But I also realized that they're really cool to work with in other genres of music, like rock and roll and jazz, and you know. So I just do my best to just keep my pulse on what's going on, and I ask questions. I'm the kind of guy that like literally when I'm trying to curate a show, and let's say I see a bunch of kids hanging out, whatever, I walk up to them and be like, "Yo, what y'all listening to these days?" And they'll tell me. Right? Well, you think such and such is hot? Yeah, alright, but you know, well, you think such and such? Nah, he's popping. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I keep my head to the ground. I mean, like my ear to the streets is I'll ask my kids, I'll ask kids in the streets, and it doesn't matter if you're black, white, or Chinese. I don't care what you are. I'm gonna ask you what you're listening to, and what's hot, right? Because I don't know. I don't even listen to radio that much anymore, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, me neither.
But I'm going to ask you guys because I want to know what you want to come see. I want to know. And if you are that passionate about it, that person must be either up and coming in rocking or they're rocking. So that's how I keep my ear to the streets. I just ask questions and I just keep my, you know, I don't mind asking questions.
Yeah, my sons tell me the same thing, because even with the Zeddy Will, I was like, who is he? And they're like,
didn't
bro,
know
you
he
didn't know who you is. And then they had G Herbo that same day too. I mean, I've heard of him, but I never listened to his music. And they're like, Dad, he's popping.
Popping.
That's the first time my son was like, I'm pulling up. Like, he was like, please get me inside.
That's what's up. Nah, G Herbo's dope.
Yeah. You always been someone who you worked with everyone from VH1 to iHeart to Universal Music. How did you decide which projects are worth your name and which ones to walk away from?
Well, all money ain't good money. So there have been a bunch of projects that I have walked away from because it just didn't feel good. But those brands that you just named, VH1, Mona Scott, hired me to be a talent wrangler on a show called This Is Hot 97 back in the day, and which is pretty much the lowest guy on totem pole. I was tired of doing shows at the time, and I called her and I was like, "Mona, I want a job." And she's like, "What you want to do?" And I'm like, "I don't care what I do, just give me a job." And my ex-wife's husband at the time, he worked for Mona doing producing Love and Hip Hop Atlanta or something. He's producing Love and Hip Hop, whatever. And he called me and was like, "Yo, they're about to do this show with Hot 97. I heard Mona talking about it, and maybe you should call her and see what's up." I was like, "That's crazy. I just called a couple of days ago." So I didn't call her. Sure enough, the very next day, she called me like, "I think I got something for you. It's not the highest level job, but get in here and show 'em what you got." So I worked for that show, and I became such a intricate part in the success of that show organically because of the relationships. They couldn't get. So I remember the first day I worked there. Again, I'm the lowest guy in totem pole, so I'm in the corner cubicle. The producers' table is in the middle with all the producers. And they're like, this guy named Mike Rushton. Mike is an awesome brother. Remember him being like, it's fucking Ebro. Ebro won't pick up the damn phone for us. And like, we got to get in touch with him. We need to talk to him. And I'm in my corner and I'm like, so I keep hearing him complain. So I turn around, I'm like, "Hey, sir, would you like me to call Ebro for you?" And he looks at me. He's like, "Yeah, right." And keeps talking. So I ain't say nothing. So he comes back around. He's like, "What do you mean you can call Ebro? And why would Ebro answer you?" I said, "I don't know how really to explain it to you, sir. But if I call him, he's going to answer." Well, we've called him 10 times and he hasn't answered. So, you know what, kid? Go ahead, call him. Humor us. I was like, "Okay. You need his number?" "Oh, no, I got his number." Dial his number. Put the shit on speaker. "Yo, what up, Lenny?" I said, "Here, go. Hey, Ebro, Mike Rushton wants to talk to you." And I put the phone to Mike, and Mike looks at me, and he grabbed the phone, talked to him, got the phone, and he goes, "Who the fuck are you again?" And I was like, "I don't know how to explain it to you. I work for Mona. I know Mona. Da, da, da." But I never said I was Lenny the barber. I never said what I did. I never. I just wanted to work. I was done with the Lenny the barber shit at that point. I was trying to figure out something different for myself. But throughout that show, I ended up. So the show was based off of. I don't know if you remember back in the day, there was a show called WKRP in Cincinnati, which is a
Yes.
radio show. So that show was like a mock of that show. This is Hot 97 show. So it was based off of real life stuff that goes on in the radio stations, as well as stars coming up to do interviews, right, and all this type of shit. Hot 97, Lenny, ended up bringing in more artists to do their show than they were able to, because Hot 97, when somebody gets a call from Hot 97, it's a different type of call. When you get a call from me, the guy that's paid you guys for I don't know how many years or whatever, they answer. So I was able to get Macklemore up there, Mike Tyson, French Montana. Who else I got up there? There's a bunch of other artists I got up there. But I also had the relationship. Most of the people that worked for the show were afraid to go talk to Flex and talk to Angie and talk to the radio jocks that were on the show and kind of tell them to come to the set. Whereas I can be like, "Yo, Angie, come on, man, let's go, we gotta hurry up." And she'd be like, "Lenny, shut up, I'm coming. But it was in camaraderie because I knew Angie, I knew Flex. I could tell Flex, "Yo, come on, man, we gotta go." You know what I'm saying? But they couldn't do that. So after that show wrapped, I get a call from Mona, and she's like, "I don't know what you did up there, but they love you. Mike loves you. So I got another job for you." And I ended up skipping, I don't know how many levels, to being a segment producer of Love and Hip Hop for a season, which was awesome as well. But that was relationship. That was Mona relationship. My relationships to get the artists up there. And so that was VH1. Sorry for being so long-winded. It was VH1. What was the other one?
iHeart and
Oh,
Universal Music.
iHeart was just me producing concerts, and I never worked for iHeart, but I produced a lot of shows with them. And then Universal Music was when I worked for Universal at Universal Motown as director of A&R for under Sylvia Rhone and Shanti Das. And I also ended up producing a part of production for a show for a weekly or monthly show called Spotlight Live, R&B Live. I'm sorry, R&B Live that was shot that we did at Spotlight Live. Myself, Eric Nixon, Shanti, which was also a kind of weird thing because I was the guy that wanted to play the back. They were the people that wanted to play the front. And I remember one day I opened up the Billboard magazine and saw an article that said R&B Live, the hottest industry music event in the industry right now. My name wasn't in there, no mention of me, and I flipped out. I was like, "Yo, how are y'all gonna do this? Shit was my idea. Like it was literally my idea." And I remember what made me chill. There's a gentleman by the name of Ron Grant that worked for Sony at the time. But Ron Grant he was a very popular gentleman. He also used to do showcases called Chaz and Wilson's, and very, very powerful guy, black man. And I remember one time I was at one of the shows at Spotlight at R&B Live, and he pulled me to the side and he said, "Yo, I just want you to know that I see you and I see what they doing to you." And I didn't know what he was talking about at the time. And I was like, "Oh no, I'm good, Ron." He said, "I'm just letting you know, man, the real ones know who's behind this." And I was like, "All right." And then the next week I see the fucking article. But maybe he knew that was coming. I don't know. He passed away. So God bless Ron. But yeah, that was my Universal Music day. And funny thing is like I ended up getting laid off at Universal. And I remember one day they laid me off, I was like smiling. I was like, "Oh, okay, no problem." And the head of HR was like, "I got a question, man." I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "I ain't never seen nobody smile when we letting them go. Like, why are you so happy?" He didn't realize that I had just booked Lil Wayne and I had made $50,000 on a booking that was sitting in a desk downstairs in my office. So I didn't give a fuck about that. The money was like whatever. But what I told him was, it's your loss. God got my back. So I'm not worried. You guys want to let me go? I can call any DJ anywhere, any given time, unlike your guys in here. And unlike your promotion people here, I got more power on these streets than any of y'all up here. But you won't let me go. I'm cool. I don't care. And I just remember like walking out of the office and he was just like shaking his head like, "How the hell is this guy so happy, man? Like, what the hell?" But no, God got my back, man. Look at me, 20 years later, I'm still doing the damn thing. You know what I'm saying? So Universal didn't stop me from making my moves, and it didn't stop me from making any money. I literally had $50,000 in the desk downstairs. Matter of fact, Universal, when I was working at Universal, is when I did the Lil Wayne show. And I remember I didn't want them to know that I was doing the show because I knew that everybody would ask for tickets. So I had my partner do the ticket buy, and they spent like 20 grand. They would have never spent that money if they knew it was me. And I remember after the show, we recorded the show, but that whole show was nuts. So in a nutshell, that was the night Wayne got locked up. So he ended up coming there with the gun. Of course, like well, it wasn't on him. It was in his on his bus. But I remember on it all. So the other thing that taught me, well, what I also learned that day, is that you can be the biggest star in the world, but if this venue doesn't want you, doesn't know you, or doesn't give a fuck about you, they don't. I mean, if they don't know you or don't respect you, they don't give a fuck about you. That show was sold out, and I remember Wayne came to the sound check, and they had set up the security check for everybody. I remember going, and I remember Wayne coming up, and he was like, "Yo, why I gotta get touch. Like it's my show. And mind you, Wayne had on like what do you call skateboarder pants and tank top. So I was like, he ain't got no gun on him. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all just be an asshole for just for searching him. But so he was like, I'm not getting searched, man. This is crazy. Like, I shouldn't have to get searched. Now it was the principle more than it was that he had something on him, which made the whole fiasco stupid because I'll fast forward to that. But he, I remember going to the general manager at the time of the Beacon Theater, and I said, hey man, Wayne's outside and they're trying to search him. Can you just let him in? Like it's his show. And I remember he turned around. He said, look, kid, I don't know who Lil Wayne is. I really don't give a fuck. If he doesn't want to get searched, I'm gonna give back your whole entire sold out show. I'm gonna give back everybody their tickets. So either Wayne gets searched or he doesn't. I don't really care. Just on the day of the show. That showed me that, these motherfuckers don't give a damn about, they don't care about hip hop, they don't care about nothing. They obviously don't give a damn about us because they would never search no country western artist or no rock and roll artist or none of that shit. It was really about, us being black and hip hop, whatever. So, leading up to that show, I had to go sit in front of the precinct, the local precinct, with about. So it was myself and this older white man that owned the show, and he called me up one day. So he played the front man for the whole show because I wanted to play the back. I didn't want to know. Called me up one day. He's like, "Yo, the police precinct, they want to shut the show down." I'm like, "Why?" They're saying Wayne's a gang member. This person's a gang. Da, 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 da. I was like, that's not true. What are you talking about? Like, there's no proof of that. And even if he is, he has no record. Like, what difference does it make what the fuck he does with his personal life? Well, if you want to do this show, we're gonna have to go meet with the precinct. So me and him go, long communal table of police, captains, sergeants, all that shit sitting there. So I had to play the back because I gotta act like it's not my show. White man gotta play the front because he's a white man. So he but he can't answer any of the questions that they're asking about the artist. So finally I stood up, I said, fuck this. I said, it's my show. It's in a big ass room full of police. I said, it's my show, man. My name is Lenny the Barber, and I pay my taxes. I own a salon in Harlem. This is my money that I'm using to produce the show. There's no reason why you guys should not let the show go on. Wayne has no record. Ja Rule has no record. I forgot who else was on the show. I said, what you're doing is damn near prejudice. It's not right. And there's no reason for you to shut this show down. And I can't take it anymore because you guys are just sitting here telling lies like these guys are troublemakers. There was a gentleman sitting right next to me. He leans over. He says, yo, I got a question, man. I said, what's up? He said, yo, you really Lenny the Barber? And I'm like, yeah, I'm Lenny the Barber. He said, yo, man, I love you, nigga. I met my wife at your party, man. He said, yo, I'm the head of the gang task force, man. I got this. Don't worry about it. Leave the room. I left the room. 5 minutes later, he walks out first. He's like, your show's back on. You good money, fam. And that's how that show played. So with me telling that whole entire story to Cortez, who's Wayne's manager, Wayne, all them, I'm thinking like, he's not going to come, not with strapped. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so what ended up happening was Sylvia Rohn, who was my boss, who was the head of Universal, was on the bus with Wayne, and he said that he wasn't going to do the show. He said, because they're going to search me, they're being disrespectful, I'm not doing the show. Fuck that. So the bus pulls up. I'm thinking nobody knows my show. One of the hating dudes at Universal told Sylvia Rohn it was my show. She calls me to the bus. I come to the bus. I'm looking at Sylvia, who's my boss, and Wayne, who's my money. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, hey, Sylvia. She's like, so this is your show, huh, Lenny? And I'm like, yes, Miss Sylvia, it's my show. She's like, okay, so I need Wayne to get to come in this building without getting searched. Got me? And I'm like, I can't, Mr. Barone. I have no juice with that. But like I said, Wayne, can I talk to you real quick? He's like, all right, come on, man. So I go in the back. I was the only, from what I understood back then, I was the only promoter that's ever been on Wayne's bus back there because I knew his manager, I knew the bus driver, and I had booked probably, I don't know, 30, 40 shows at the time. I go in the back to the back room with Wayne, and I want to say that was the first time I had ever saw jewelry that big. And I remember picking up his jewelry, like, what the fuck is this? Like, and he had a picture of his daughters on his nightstand in the back. And he's like, nah, man, they want to search me, man. That's disrespectful. That's fucked up. New York don't love Lil Wayne. And I said, Wayne, what are you talking about? New York don't love Lil Wayne. I put this show on sale on Thursday. I said, by Sunday, it was sold out, bro. What are you talking about? I said, and besides that, I'm up to about 30 shows with you, and my money's always been on time. You can't do this to me. And he looked at me. He was like, man, you know what I'm saying? All I care about is my daughters, man. That's all I care about, man. I'm like, yo, I get it, man, but you can't do this to me, bro. He was like, you know what, Lenny? I like you, man. Let's go do the show. So then here it is. I open the door, and I'm walking out, and Wayne is like, all right, the show back on. Sylvia Rowan is looking at me like, what the fuck did this kid just tell Lil Wayne? I didn't know that Sylvia was on the bus for an hour begging him to get off the bus to go to do the show. So he did the show, and that's when he cursed out the police on stage, and of course they had it out for him after that. And that's why his ass ended up getting locked up that night, because he had a target on his back. So there was no reason for him for anybody to have a gun on the bus. They didn't even ask. The gun wasn't on him. They just got on the bus and asked who's Lil Wayne. They didn't search the bus first and then say, and Wayne said, it's my gun. They said, who's Lil Wayne? Took him and then searched the bus, found the gun and put it on him. That's how that story went. No other way. So they didn't even have time to put it on anybody else. You feel me? Yeah. So that was one of my Universal / promoter experiences where both of my worlds kind of clashed. Pretty awesome story. Pretty awesome clashing. Made a lot of money that night. Sylvia finally realized who I was. I want to say 2 days after that, Eric Sermon was walking past my office, and he walked past the office, and I'm sitting at the desk, and I'm like, "What up, Eric?" So he comes back, and he's like, "Lenny," he was like, "What you doing behind the desk?" I was like, I'm working, Eric. What are you talking about? I'm director of marketing here." He's like, "Do they know who you are?" And I'm like, "Nah, Eric, but just leave it alone, man." He's like, "Fuck that." He went to Sylvia and told Sylvia, "You need to use him. He's more powerful than all these motherfuckers up here. If he calls somebody, call Flex or call somebody, they're gonna play the fucking record for him." So next day, Sylvia called me in the office and was like, "Look, I didn't know who you were. You got free reign. You do whatever you want." And yeah, so the rest is history. I ended up leaving Universal a couple months after that. But yeah, that was my Universal story.
What's the most misunderstood part about being a black exec in this space?
That if you have money, that it matters. One time I did a show called Still Rockin'. It's called One Africa Fest. It's a brand that I had produced the first concert for this promoter. His name is Paulo. He's the owner of One Music Fest. He's a billionaire. He does all the shows in Africa. He has all the money in the world. He couldn't get Madison Square Garden, Barclays, none of them. He had all the money in the world. He ended up paying me, my company, $30,000 for me to go get the building because of my relationship. So being black with a bunch of money, you can't really, you got to have a relationship to get into some of these doors, man. That shit don't mean nothing. So that was my first lesson in realizing, like, oh shit, Lenny, you are somebody. You really can move a needle somewhere. You got a nice little Rolodex, and you can make things happen that a damn black billionaire couldn't make happen. So those are one of the things that I really realized that, like, yeah, money's great, money's good to have, but relationships are just as valuable.
What keeps you going now after 2 decades in the game? What fueling this next chapter for you?
I actually like doing what I do, so that's one thing. In this next chapter for me, I I just opened up a dispensary in Atlantic City, so that's a different venture for me. That's totally outside of entertainment. I mean, of course, everybody wants to smoke weed, but the business of weed is a lot different than the music business. So that's my next. That's within my next chapter is owning a dispensary. I also want to open up a lounge at some point. I rather a dive kind of lounge kind of thing, not like a super sexy big shit. I want some hole in the wall, live music, come get drunk, listen to some good music, and go to fuck home and have a good time. What else? I love working. I love being on the side of working for other producers. I was part of productions, one of the producers on the last Wild and Out tour, so that was dope. So I like doing that. I like traveling, and I'm also putting out a tea brand. Back when COVID hit and I couldn't figure out how to make money, I started cooking and cooking for money, selling dinners, and I would sell this tea that I made that I've been drinking since I was a child. It's soursop tea. So the soursop leaf, you boil the leaf and lemongrass. And so my tea has lemongrass, soursop, bay leaf, and a herb called cattle tongue. And it's organic. It's very good. It's good for you. It's called Croy tea. And I should be pushing that out within the next 4 months or so. But I ended up selling the tea and the dinners, and people were raving about the tea, and I was like, maybe I should sell this shit. Like I was like, I don't. So I ended up, putting together a website and buying bottles, labeling them, and I ended up catching a check, and I just didn't do it anymore. I just left it to the side, and so now I feel like, dummy, you should have kept it going. You'd have had residual income coming in by now. That was 4 or 5 years ago that you could have started your company, and so I'm gonna start back on that as well. So I also want to start with wellness and just kind of like just pushing out. I love speaking to the youth, so part of my next chapter is to continue to empower the young and talk to those who are somewhat lost and have them understand that I was just like them when I was in 8th grade. I was a fucking degenerate. Like I was a wild little fucking smart ass, wasn't a troublemaker, but it was just like they were, a little guy that wanted to, kiss a girl every now and again, and sometimes study, sometimes don't. Wasn't a A student, I was a B, C student, you know what I'm saying? But, now you're sitting there talking to me, and this is my life. This is who I've touched, this is what I've touched, this is the kind of money I've made, and you can do this too. You could even do it better than I can because you have technology behind you, which I did not have back then. You're never going outside to hand out a flyer. I did that, you know what I mean? So that's what I feel like my next chapter looks like, is looking like I want to do my best to empower our youth and to, I have a grandson now, so I want to raise my grandson and, continue to empower my kids. My son is now in production, which is awesome. And he's doing really well, so I'm very proud of him. My daughter's doing really well. She's working in real estate and construction now. And my other daughter, my third daughter that I just found out that I had a couple of years ago, she's a teacher studying to be a principal, which is awesome. Her husband is an awesome guy, and she has a grandson. So I have someone else I gotta, build a legacy for. So that's my next chapter. My next chapter is all about building something for my, not necessarily money, but knowledge of self for the youth and for my kids and my grandkids. And, because I feel like knowledge is just as powerful as money. I could leave them money and they could fuck it up, right? I could leave them $10 million and
To blow it.
I've seen it happen. I know people that have won 10 million. I mean, look at the lottery, right? You win 10, $20 million, and next thing you know, there are a bunch of stories out there where these motherfuckers are broke today. You know, I know one. I know a guy that's broke. So, you know, I just want to lead, you know, do my best to lead by example and do my best to empower the youth.
Same here, brother. That's why when I saw you back last month at Jalil's show, you saw I had some of the kids from my youth program,
Facts.
and I was like, I definitely need to pick your brain, and sometime when you have an event where I could bring some of the kids, and most definitely would love to have you at one of my seminars where you could speak to the kids.
Anytime.
Tell them about the importance of production, and of course, again, relationships. What's one piece of advice you would give someone coming up who has the talent but doesn't have the access yet?
Never stop believing. When I go speak to these kids at high schools, elementary schools, the one message that I make everybody yell at the top of their lungs is I believe. If I didn't believe in myself, I would never have cut hair. I would have allowed those barbers and those other people that told me that I couldn't cut, that I would have just stopped, right? I would have believed them. And I would have just went back to working for 9X or went and found me another job doing something different, and my life wouldn't be what it is today. I wouldn't be sitting here telling you my story. But I believed in myself. I believed that I could be one of the best barbers. And I was. And still am. Still nice. You feel me? And back then, I was the fucking best. There was nobody fucking with me. There was nobody better than me. There was no barber that was better than me. They can say, I'm better than him. He did not exist. You feel me? And I could stand on that. And can't no barber from back in the day or even today potentially could tell me that they're better than me today. They could tell me they could do a design better than me, but you know, that's art, right? But cutting hair, like speed and precision and that client being able to shake their hair out 3 days, 4 days later and still feel like they still got a fresh cut, that's me. That's me. I'm not the guy that just wants you to walk out with a sharp line that day and then wipe your hair and wipe your head or do something with your hair and it don't look the same 3 days later. I want I want your haircut to last. You feel me? So I stand on that. So, you know, my best advice would be you believe and you put up, you know, you sometimes when you put up a post, you may get 10 likes, or you may get 1 like, you know, remove now technology where you can remove the likes so you don't even know who the fuck liked your shit. But you keep putting that shit up, man. You keep pushing. You keep asking questions. You keep walking Kanye. Yo, I swear this is true. I remember Kanye when I came out of my ex-wife's best friend Darcel Lawrence's birthday party back in the day. Kanye was outside begging for people to listen to his record, right? Look at who he is now. I remember seeing him outside asking her to listen to his music, right? He believed in himself. Y'all can call him fucking crazy if you want to, but that's a motherfucker who believes in himself and knows he's dope. So know that you're dope. Know that there's nothing that's going to come. If you stop when you want to stop, but if you want to keep going, yo, success is within yourself. It's not what somebody else says. You don't got to worry about what somebody else telling you you're successful. You tell yourself you're successful. Because there have been times that I have had some really dark spaces that times in my life where I just was like, damn, I'm lost all this bread. I don't know what the fuck to do. But I had to be like, nigga, you're Lenny. Like, fuck out of here. You're gonna come out of this, right? You're gonna come out of this valley. The mountain's right there, bro. You can climb it. I know you can. You didn't climb it before. But you're in a valley right now. So my best advice to anyone is to believe in themselves and never, ever, ever, ever stop believing them and understand that it's going to be the closest people to you that are going to tell you you're crazy, right? When I was a barber and I was ready to leave the barbershop, the Sam Gore, God bless him, love him to death, he told me I was not going to be successful. He told me that. Oh, you leaving me? You're not going to be successful. What do you mean? You know what I did? I took his words and I used it. I tell everybody this to this day. When somebody tells you that you can't do something, you take all those negative words and use it as fuel. And use that as a fuel for your rocket ship, right? And you use that as fuel and make sure that you Continuously remember those people that doubted you and told you that you couldn't do it. And that makes you push up one more time. That makes you knock on one more door. That makes you post one more time, right? That makes you ask one more question, right? Is for them people that told you couldn't do it. But now I'm here, I'm in this room. Like, what am I, I'm not supposed to be in this room, according to what these people told me. I ain't supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing now. According to the barbers that told me that I couldn't cut hair, I shouldn't have been able to take their customers. I shouldn't have been able to cut the guy. I shouldn't have Nelly and Nas and fucking music videos on my damn belt, right? I shouldn't be an executive. I shouldn't be an executive producer of Fetty Wap's first video. My name's on there. It's the executive producer for My Way. My name's on there. I shouldn't be there. If I believed anybody that told me that I couldn't do what I'm doing, people told me I was out of my mind. I remember one time I told somebody, yo, man, I was doing parties. Yeah, I want to do something in Madison Square Garden. Bro was like, man, you fucking crazy as hell, man. You ain't getting no fucking Madison Square Garden. Get out of here, man. I got Madison Square Garden on my motherfucking resume. It's there. I can say I do it. I did it. And you know what? I can call the man that runs it and do it again, right? So if I believed in any negativity that's been thrown my way, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. So that is the best advice that I can give to anybody. And like I said, success is within, man. It ain't about what somebody, don't let nobody tell you that you're successful. You tell yourself you're successful. You know what I'm saying? So that's the best advice that I give anybody.
That's amazing advice, my brother. Definitely, brother.
Appreciate it.
First of all, thank you again for coming today, bro. I have so much respect for you. I can never thank you enough for the opportunities you've given me in the past. Before we go, where could people find you, whether it's social media, website, any of that?
My social media on Instagram is Lenny the Barber. On Facebook is Lenny Hansen. And the name of my website is Momentum Entertainment Group, LLC.
Again, thank you, my brother, for your time. I appreciate you.
Indeed.
Much
All
love.
day. I'll be back. Let me know when you want me to speak to those kids, man.
Most definitely, brother.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Peace.